Thanks very much. Many mining jurisdictions around the world require mined lands to be rehabilitated to a safe, stable, non-polluting condition and able to sustain a post-mining land use. But in reality, we see very few complex mines ever able to achieve that goal. So there's, in my view, a very clear gap between the expectations set by regulators and the technical, financial and cultural capability of the industry to meet those standards. If they weren't, we'd see more successful surrenders under contemporary environmental legislation. So it's that area of the gap that I'm very interested in my research. And I'm looking at the progressive rehabilitation and mine closure task through the lens of wicked problems. And by definition, wicked problems are not necessarily solved by a single solution, but are rather, if you like, better managed by a suite of solutions. So to do that, I've had a look at governance in different jurisdictions on rehabilitation and a particular deep dive into the history of mine rehabilitation in Queensland. And I've then followed that through by looking at the behaviours of the industry with a specific focus on Queensland and even more specifically on thermal and metallurgical coal. You can see by the performance on my slide that there's lots of work to be done. But I also went and asked the expert community through an expert elicitation survey around what the perceived and actual barriers to progressive rehabilitation occurring more quickly for post-mining land uses on operational sites. If we're not closing mines, we have to start that transition earlier. Some of the top of the pops came up were the fear of residual risk, the apportionment of liability, the clarity around closure acceptance criteria and the spectre of trailing liabilities. So they're concerns that I think need to be addressed in a certain way. So I've had a look at all of that research put together, those behaviours in progressive rehabilitation. You can see some examples up on the board there. Also asset sales, particularly in thermal and metallurgical coal, and having a look at what sort of responses need to be put together to address some of that. So I have been working on proposing an alternative model of stewardship of mined lands that takes away the concept of closure completely and even really challenges the idea of transitions to a post-mining land use, and looking at it more through the lens of a long-term stewardship model where all those who have benefited from the extraction of natural resources have a legitimate role to play in that. And the results, you'll have to read my thesis.